Hi, welcome back, and today we're going to finish up with the indicative mood. Maybe you thought this day would never come, but today we're going to be dealing with the future passive indicative as well as the aorist passive indicative of the verb, and this is called the sixth principal part, aorist and future passive indicative. Now, two keys for the forms. And this is, again, working your way from left to right. If you see an augment plus a theta eta, that's your first aorist passive. Augment, theta, eta. So look at your form there, eleuthain. We have a prefixed augment, here's our stem, and there's our theta, eta. First aorist passive. So the ending here is first singular. So aorist passive indicative first singular, translated, I was loosed. Now, the other key for this principal part is when you see a theta, eta, sigma. That's your future passive indicative, and there's no augment. Remember, augments only occur in the past tenses with the imperfect and the aorist forms. So, our future passive here of the verb is luthesomai. Luthesomai. There's our theta, eta, sigma. I shall be loosed. All right, let's say the first aorist passive indicative of luo together, and I'd like for you to pronounce these along with me. Eleuthein, eleuthes, eleuthe, eleuthemen, eleutheta, eleuthesan. Now, let's notice the things that are somewhat similar to what we've already learned. That's always helpful. Here we have a sigma here for the second person singular, and we've had that before in various endings of the tenses. Look over here to the first person plural for the men. We've seen that. The second person plural, te, we've seen that also. And eleuthesan, we've seen the san ending before. So let's pronounce them one more time. Eleuthein, eleuthes, eleuthe, eleuthemen, eleutheta, eleuthesan. All right, here's our memory aid. One arrow is passively sleeping against the indicator for first aorist passive indicative. Lou was loosed. He was destroyed. That's why there's the grave for him. So from left to right, observe P. Hogman, then Lou's grave, and then a young lady named Theta Eta. There she is. And she's bringing along her two pets. Now, look in her right hand. She has a new sigma that cost nothing. So that helps us with our singular endings. Nu, sigma, nothing, or zero. The third singular doesn't have another ending. And notice with her left arm, she is holding on to these amen. And what did they do? They ate a son. Amen, eta, a son. That helps us with the plural endings. So the new sigma that costs nothing, and then amen that ate a son. All right, here are forms for the future passive indicative. Let's say these together. Luthesomai, luthese, luthesetai, luthesamatha, luthesista, luthesantai. Now notice again in all six forms we have the theta, eta, sigma without an augment. That's your future passive. Now take a look at the endings. O my, a, atai, amatha, estha, untai. You had these endings way back in chapter 4. So, our picture here, Lou looks through his binoculars at the indicator while Theta Eta talks about Lou's future demise when he will be destroyed by the indicator, future passive indicative. Now, from left to right, observe Lu with theta eta, the sigma sun, and then the amethyst balloon. We've had amethyst occur in so many endings up to this point, so I didn't need to put every ending in there. She's enough just to remind us of the omai, a, atai endings, with amethyst being the untier. So here we have some verbs. I'm going to hit my pause button and would ask that you parse and translate, and then we will compare notes. All right, the first one, so they say. Notice the theta, eta, sigma, no augment. So this is the future passive indicative, second person singular. You will be saved. Didach theta from didasco. There we have an augment, stem, then a theta eta. First aorist passive. Indicative, and this is a second person plural. So you were taught. Egerthesentai. Notice here the theta eta sigma. Future passive indicative. Third person plural. They will be raised. The next one, acousthesetai, theta eta sigma, no augment. Future passive indicative, third singular. He, she, or it will be heard. Now, the next one, eparuthemen, comes from paruomai, which is a deponent verb. Surely you remember those. So here we have an augment, and then we have our stem, theta eta. So instead of putting passive here for voice, we say first aorist, deponent indicative, first person plural, and the translation here would be active, we went. Ebaptisthemen, augment, and then you see your theta eta. First aorist, passive indicative, first person plural, we were baptized. Now, the last one's a little tricky. This is sunethesan. This comes from synago. It's a compound verb. So notice here the eta. That is an augment. And then what happened to your gamma, it picked up the H sound to merge in with the theta. Otherwise, you'd be starting and stopping in the middle of a word. So this is first aorist, passive, indicative, third person plural. They were gathered together. I hope you feel a degree of success. All right, now we need to talk a little bit about some slight assimilations of the stem to the theta eta. And most of these are just a matter of ways that people would say words by not having stops and starts in the middle of the word. So, epemphane, that's from pempo. Now notice the pi picks up the H sound and gives us the phi. And so the pH of the phi merges together with the theta, which is a double consonant, and you run it together. Epemphane, I was sent. That's first aorist passive indicative, first singular. Elempthane, this is from lambano, and we've seen some of the irregular forms of lambano, particularly in the future, and then the perfect. So here we have the merging together of the labial with the theta. So this is a lymphane, first aorist passive indicative, first singular. I was taken or I was received. All right, then we have our gutturals, kappa, gamma, chi. Now again, notice what happens. The gutturals you say down here, they merge together with the theta, and they come out in this way. Didachthane, that's from didasco. Notice the chi there. It's a way of running the word together. First aorist passive indicative, first singular, I was taught. Dioxane. There's our augment, our stem, and then we have the theta eta. So augment here, theta eta. The kappa merged in together with the theta, and we have the merging of the H sounds at dioxane. I was persecuted or pursued. And then we have our dentals or linguals, those that you say with your tongue pushing up against your teeth. The same thing happens here. That dental drops out. And so we have epasthane from patho, I trust or persuade. This is parsed as first aorist passive indicative. For singular, I was persuaded. And finally, ebaptisthane, first aorist passive indicative. For singular, I was baptized. All right, now we have some irregular verbs, and Professor Oddity is here on hand to help us. Balo, I throw. Take a look at the first aorist passive, eblathane, eblathane. Here we see our augment, right there with the epsilon. There's our theta eta. So I was thrown. Now, genomai is deponent, right? Here we have the aorist deponent indicative for singular, I became. Agonathane. Augment plus theta eta. This word is deponent, so it's translated actively. Agero, I raise up. Agerthane. Not too bad of a change there. So we have our augment on the front, our stem, then the theta eta. And horao, this has been a constantly irregular verb. Ophthane, I appeared, or sometimes can be translated, I was seen. Ophthane. All right, we have a few more here to deal with. Apostello, I send. Apestallane, that's the second aorist passive, and we call it second aorist passive instead of first because the second aorist passives don't have the theta, but the ending is basically still the same. Apoctano, I kill. The first aorist passive, apectanthane. So notice your augment there, and then your theta eta. Here's our augment with the epsilon, and then here's our theta eta. So I was killed. Crino, I judge, becomes ekrithane. The nu drops out here. So we have our augment, theta eta, first aorist passive indicative for singular, I was judged. Lego, I say, and the aorist passive of this is only found in the third person singular. It's pronounced erethe, erethe. It was said. For instance, Jesus says in the Sermon on the Mount, it was said. And then Pharaoh, I bear or carry. This is very irregular, a little bit like what we had with the aorist active, and it's pronounced a nechthane, a nechthane. I was born or I was carried. So there's our augment, and there's our theta eta. Now we do have a second aorist passive of grapho, and it's just like the first aorist passive, except here you don't have the theta. So we have agraphane, agraphes, agraphe, agraphemen, agrapheta, agrapheson. Now the endings are the same. The only thing that's missing is the theta. All right, we have some practice. I'm going to hit my pause button. You do the same, and we'll come back and compare our translations. All right, sentence 1. The sinners were saved in that hour. Your verb there is first aorist passive, indicative, third person plural. Number 2. In those days, the word of peace will be heard. Akoustesetai, Notice your theta, eta, sigma, no augment. So future passive indicative, third person singular. Number 3 is one of those irregulars from Anoigo. It's a little bit of a change here, but it's not too bad. So this is first aorist passive indicative, third person plural. The eyes of the blind were opened, and they were healed. Etheraputheson. So there we have our augment and then our theta eta. And number 4, you entered the church and you were baptized. Aeothes, second aorist active indicative, second singular. And then ebaptistes, we see the augment here. Here's our stem, and here's our theta eta. So first aorist passive indicative, second person singular. So thanks, and I trust this has been helpful to you.